I saw floating dead bodies of people I knew. Scary as balls.
I was swimming, dove down to look at something, and couldn't swim back up. I was drowning, trying to wake up, silently screaming, panicking while trying to make myself wake up. I finally woke up, gasping for air. I guess I don't know how to breathe while dream drowning.
My girlfriend was in some unexplainable pain right outside my window. I tried insanely hard to get outside to her. I was breaking things, breaking windows, doors, just freaking out. And whenever I almost got out of my door, something grabbed me from behind and pulled me back into my house, and I could see the pain got worse for her. Finally I got close to her and just managed to hold her in my arms when something snatched her away from me and killed me right there. It just really bothered me that I couldn't protect or save her.
I ran into my doppelganger, who grabbed me and screamed abuse at me for what felt like an eternity. It was actually 10 minutes, screaming pain all over my body. All the while, I was desperately trying to wake up. Eventually I did, jumping up on the bed and drenched in sweat. The crazy part was, I remember thinking how it was all a dream and joking to myself how I was going to go back down there and kick his ass. Not a word of a lie, the moment my head touched the pillow again, I was in the exact same dream, and he was screaming even louder. It literally felt like I was staring into an abyss. If I recall correctly, I didn't sleep for about 2 days after that.
Zombie outbreak. I ran for my life, until I saw a dead zombie. For some reason, Dream Me decided to have sex with it. It was even a POV angle from my penis. It was rotten. This was before I had seen the horrors of the internet. I woke up confused and ashamed. I had some dream where I had some creepy dead-looking face just stare at me no matter where I looked. The more I looked at it, the more dread I felt. I woke up feeling pretty messed up.
Dad was beheaded in front of me. Woke up drenched in sweat. I did not go back to sleep. My scariest and most disturbing dream went as follows. I saw a hair on my chin, but as I went to pluck it out, I realized it was not a hair. It was, in fact, the leg of a largish insect, which was somehow burrowed into my skin. As I pulled the leg out, my skin ripped open to allow for the passage of the larger insect body. I was disgusted by this initial bug harvest. Unfortunately, this discovery was followed by more hairs, which after plucked, revealed more and larger insects. As this went on, I discovered that they were burrowed around my jaw, and had attached themselves to the roots of my teeth. As I pulled more insects out, my skin was not only ripped apart, but I could feel them yanking on the roots of my teeth, loosening my molars and causing many to fall out. By the time the dream ended, I had bloody gashes all over my chin and half of my bottom molars had fallen out. When I woke up, I could still feel the pain in the gums around my bottom molars.
I had a dream that made me cry in real life when I was little. I was in some building with a bunch of other little kids. Then all of a sudden, some men in black suits took all of our parents and just drove away. All of the kids, including me, were crying.
In real life, my dad died of lung cancer a few years ago. And in the course of his treatment, he ended up with some lesions on his brain. In a dream a few weeks ago, I saw him sitting in a chair looking very sick, holding his brain in his hands in front of him, looking sadly at it. Somehow it was still connected to his body, and I watched the blood flow through tubes between them. It was downright disturbing. I dreamt that I was about to make love to a beautiful, beautiful woman. I got up to get a condom and hear her say, "Don't forget me." I turned around and she had hung herself. Immediately I said, "This is just a dream. Wake up, wake up." But I couldn't, so then I started thinking it was real. I ran over and grabbed her by the legs and tried to hold her up. I started yelling for help. I was woken up by my friend because I was actually screaming at the top of my lungs in my sleep. The dream fucked me up for days. I dreamt I was in a round room and there was no door out. The walls all around were filled with portraits of friends and family, and they were all slightly crooked. There was a main group portrait that was perfectly placed. I felt I had to correct the crooked pictures, but each time I got one straight that person died in the main photo. It was awful because I kept trying to get all those pictures straight, but each time those people fell down dead in the main group portrait. I was like 9 or 10 years old at the time. It was fucking scary. I didn't want to sleep for days.
Every once in a while I experience sleep paralysis. This means my mind wakes up before the rest of my body. I'm able to open my eyes and look around, but I can't move. Whenever I have an episode, there's always a shadowy figure that comes up to the bed and drags me out of the room by my foot. The whole time it's walking towards me, I'm trying to scream and run away, but it feels like I'm a prisoner in my own body. Eventually I regain control of my body and I usually wake up screaming. Worst feeling ever. Sometimes I stay awake the rest of the night because there have been times it's happened multiple times in one night, and going through it once is bad enough.
You, sir, have shadow people dreams. I have those too. Mine are typically super gory and involve me getting dismembered in some way or another. My wife usually has to wake me up because I am essentially trying to yell but can't move my mouth. The worst one involved me being stuffed in a box and bled out while my wife looked for me. I could see out of the box and she didn't see me.
I dreamt that I woke up, looked to the other side of my bed and found some random corpse next to me. I freaked out a bit, but then it woke up and told me how he died, and I was left with the impression that he was actually a nice guy. After I got that friendly nice guy feeling, he kinda said goodbye and died again, and I thought to myself, oh well, he's a nice guy, wouldn't mind sleeping next to his corpse, and went back to sleep. As soon as I did that, I woke up, sweating, looked next to me at the empty bed and actually said out loud, "What the fuck?"
I had a dream that I was lying in bed under my covers and there was something just staring at me in a rocking chair. I could hear the rocking back and forth. It was waiting for me to move or something. I was preparing myself to throw my blankets off and attack it. I built up the courage and threw the blanket off. It was right in front of my fucking face. Scarred and burnt, with some fucked up smiling with all black eyes. Hovering just a foot away from my face, smiling. I saw my father in the rocking chair, going back and forth, dead. I saw the guy who was standing over me holding a rope attached to the rocking chair, pulling it back and forth, making it seem like someone was moving the chair. Then the creepy guy started yelling and you could see his fucking teeth. Then he charges my face and I wake up.
I'm in bed with my girlfriend, waiting to fall asleep. She starts making this low, muttering sound. I think she's having a nightmare. I say, "Honey, what's wrong? Wake up, honey." She opens her eyes and bolts upright in bed. She leans over me, and in the darkness, I can just barely see that her face is torn, rotting meat. She leans down, and bites into my neck. I scream. I wake up, but the setting is exactly the same. I'm in bed, and my girlfriend is leaning over me. Obviously, I have to see her face, to know if she's a zombie. I say, "Turn on the light." Turn on the light. My girlfriend, who is leaning over me to see if I'm okay, decides that I'm not screaming because I'm having a nightmare. I must need the light on because there's a spider in the bed. My girlfriend starts screaming. She must be a zombie. I jump out of bed, she jumps out of bed. Eventually, she finds a switch and turns on the light. I say, "Oh, never mind," and put down my baseball bat.
I had one where my mom had arranged a party and was inviting hundreds of women, and she was planning on murdering them all. I was trying to talk her out of it and refused to be anywhere near her, so I ran off for the day. When I returned that night, she'd killed all these women and positioned them round my house as if they were still alive. But they were all stiff and pale and obviously dead. Sat along the sofa, lying on the floor, slouched up the stairs, in my room, everywhere. To top it off, my mom had really loud horrible death metal on, and had a creepy smile that stretched up to her temples. I was scared of my mum for months after that. When I was younger, I had a dream that I was lying in my bed looking at the wall across from me. Behind that wall was a little space that you could hang up your coat or place your shoes. The moon was coming through my blinds, illuminating the spot next to that little place. Ronald fucking McDonald's head pokes out into the moonlight, covered in blood. I remember very distinctly how black the blood looked in the moonlight. He has this crazy glare and was holding a butcher knife with a lot of blood running down it. He didn't say a fucking word but motioned for me to come to him with the knife. I was paralyzed with fear. I could not scream in my dream or move. After I woke up from that, I did not go back to sleep. To this day, I am still terrified of red-headed clowns.
When I was in my 20s I had a dream that I was riding in the car, my mom driving and my head in her lap. Suddenly a red truck passes us on the left driving backwards and a guy wearing dark goggles and a red bandana and standing in the bed of the truck uses a pistol to shoot my mom through the temple. There's a visible bullet hole out of the other side and she's still alive but making noises like she's mentally handicapped after she's shot. I wake up screaming "Mama! Mama!" And when I realize I'm just dreaming, I am so relieved and thankful that my mom is still alive. I have never screamed out of a dream before or since that I can remember.
It was the only lucid dream I've ever had. I was in the middle of a random dream when I figured out what was happening. Everything and everyone faded away, and I was alone in a vast white nothingness. I tried to fly, but could only do a few hovering jumps. So, I decided to wake up. Except I can't. I closed and opened my eyes a few times. That had worked in the past during scary dreams where I wasn't lucid, but terrified. Nothing. I was stuck in my own head. I started running around and screaming, hoping my real body would make a noise and my mom would wake me out of my nightmare. Nothing. Okay, it's Sunday. Mom will wake me up for church soon, I try to reason. No good. I'm still here. How long have I been asleep? What if it's only been an hour? What if I'm stuck in my head all night? I do the blinking thing again, faster and faster. Eventually, I open my real eyes. It's very early morning. My heart is pounding. I never want to have another lucid dream again. It was the most terrifying thing I'd ever experienced to that point in my life. Still the scariest where someone didn't die.
In freshman year of university, I read that keeping a dream journal trains the brain to slip into lucid dreams. A few months of journaling later, I started waking up inside my dreams. I loved it. I couldn't manipulate very much of my dreams at all. But even changing very small details was thrilling to me. That sense of control felt so liberating. But then, one night, I started having a god-awful nightmare. Monsters hid inside my parents' bodies and slowly tore the flesh off a toddler version of my little brother, relishing the taste while he flailed and cried and screamed for me. They really took their time with it, and every bit of it was worse for me being awake. I'm not sure how to explain it properly, but the lucidity was what made it truly awful. I knew it was a dream, but because I was lucid, because I was awake, it felt so much more real than any other nightmare I've ever experienced. There was no blur in the dream or fog at all. Everything was perfectly clear and set in immaculate detail. When I couldn't manipulate the dream or force it to change at all, I tried to wake up. And then I couldn't. I started trying to scream, trying to yell myself awake. But the sky seemed to press down on me, and I couldn't get any air in or out of my lungs. I fell to my knees and started smashing my fists on the concrete. The skin split, my arms rang with the shock, the bones broke, and the monsters in my parents' stolen bodies started ambling towards me. I just kept trying to scream through the suffocation and kept smashing my hands to bloody pulps. When I finally woke up, I was out of my mind. My heart was beating so hard it hurt, and I could only breathe in short, tight gasps. I stopped journaling. I didn't want to ever lucid dream again. But then, by that point, I'd made an unconscious habit of it. So it kept happening. Each time I realized I was in a dream, I would set out to wake up and try again, so to speak. I got stuck another 2 times before my brain fell out of the habit and went back to its regularly scheduled programming. Each time had its own horrors. Years later I'm still so deeply afraid of lucid dreaming.
During my worst experience, I was having a fantastic dream. I then thought it was time to wake up, so I tried to open my eyes but couldn't. I thought that was a bit weird, as I normally can open my eyes to wake up anyway, so I tried and tried, without success. I then did wake up from the dream, which seemed to be in another dream. This happened again and again, myself waking up from a dream within a dream until about the 7th time. I then started panicking, thinking I was in a coma or something, and so started shouting and screaming at my neighbors to help me, still within the dream. I thought I was dying, that I'd never see my family or friends again, and that I was going to be stuck forever in this dream. I eventually woke up crying, "TL, doctor, it was kind of like Inception. Waking up from dreams within dreams, but with a lot more brick shitting."
I'll tell you something slightly fucked up that happened to me when I was actively practicing lucid dreaming for a while. I had gotten fairly good at it, to the point where if I remember dreaming from the night before, that usually meant I had gone lucid at some point. Well, this one time, I have a dream where I'm in this old theater going up a side staircase. I go lucid and realize I am dreaming. I start to float up the stairs and glide upward with ease. As I round a corner, a tiny girl is standing at the top of the next flight of stairs. She didn't look quite right for some reason. Like she was half doll, half human. And she was really little. Red hair, pale skin, eyes black as coal. She started to walk towards me. I decided that I didn't like this and tried to summon her away. It didn't work. She got closer and closer until she forcefully grabbed my hand and ripped me out of my floating bliss. I close my eyes and try to fly away, but she yanks me back down and yells, "No, you're coming with me." She yells this in a voice that does not belong to a little girl, like a gravely raspy but deep voice. She ends up dragging me into this room where some guy has a pile of bodies just sitting there. He sees me, grins and goes, "Oh, you're next, eh?" However, at this point, I noticed the girl was gone. Once I realized that, I had control again and I, like, trampoline bounced through the ceiling and got the fuck out of there.
Me and my nightmares have an understanding. They promise to stay away from me while I'm sleeping, and in return I promise not to stab any more of them to death. I started sleeping with the knife under my pillow, and now whenever I'm dreaming I always have it in my dream. Never did I think this would become my worst nightmare. The guy who wanted to marry me had somehow been in my house and seemed like he really loved me. I have never met nor seen this man in my life. He was chasing a close relative of mine around the house while holding a knife. As my mom and I approached him, he would hide the knife and smile at us, assuring us we were safe and out of harm. But when we turned around, this man would conveniently stick the knife out again and run after this relative of mine. This dream was reoccurring and lasted for 3 days, and ever since I am afraid that the man I will love is a sinner.